This video is brought to you by the local project's print publication. Head to the description of this video to subscribe now and receive 3 copies each year.
I'm David Burton. I'm a director of Williams Burton Leopardi.
Sophia Leopardi, also a director at Williams Burton Leopardi, and this is the North Adelaide Residence.
It's a cottage on the parklands of North Adelaide. It faces a reasonably unique situation where it's in a row of substantial cottages that are all state heritage listed. Unusually for single-fronted cottages, they are actually quite grand. They have side entrances rather than front entrances, so the hallways really only start from a third of the way down the house, meaning they have a grand reception room at the front. And so the ability to bring some of that grandness and detail that you might associate with a more substantial house was something that was really interesting. A level of quality which is fairly unusual for a worker's cottage.
And I guess more broadly, with any heritage building, there's often sort of an indefinable quality of detail and proportion, which certainly is something that we appreciate in terms of an existing context that we can then launch our new design from.
The house is about 220 square metres, so it's not a huge house. Unusually, the brief wasn't seeking to maximise functional space. In fact, we've deleted a bedroom out of what was originally a 3-bedroom house to go to a 2-bedroom house, opening that opportunity to have separate living areas where you might have a more formal lounge room at the front, which overlooks the parklands, and a separate more casual lounge room. The emphasis was more on that experience of luxury.
I guess we in some ways saw that as an opportunity to create different moods within the house. The softer light in the front really lends itself to enjoyment at different times of day. We've expanded a new opening from that sitting room into the entry hall, and that sort of invites some extra light into that space, but still at sort of a muted level. And then we've integrated skylights down the length of what is quite a long hallway that clearly demarks what is old and what is new.
And it was what we termed the never-ending lean-to. It's the existing footprint of a 1960s, 1970s lean-to, and it just kept going down and down and down until it sort of terminated with a big picture window facing north, just to drag that light back into what is a long, narrow house.
An expanded volume really drenches that whole space in beautiful northern light.
Some of the impact of that narrower site meant cantilevering the kitchen out into the garden with windows above and below the cooking surfaces.
The handmade doors, when they're folded back, it's very much an extension of the inside space. How a space interacts with outside is intrinsic to how it's going to feel, so thought was always given to the framework of that. The idea of really inviting the garden in maximises the relatively small footprint of garden.
Softens the house externally, but also softens the feeling that you've got internally as well. So when you're looking at an older house or a heritage house especially, a lot of the elements that make up that house have a handmade quality to them, whether it's hand picking of stone or the actual moulding that is used. So when you can bring in that element of handmade, that just helps balance that idea as well. So the windows are beautifully made, but they also have an element of flaws to them which come with something that is bashed together on an anvil. And that's a really nice balance to those more contemporary and clean surfaces then.
So the materials palette really was drawn from the idea of reduction and repetition. We're consistently using materials and then ensuring that we're sort of layering those with texture and nuance. Starts with the washed oak flooring, which was slightly non-conscious, but a really beautiful connection to the existing sandstone front. The oak then becomes a grounding element for many of the other components. The joinery has been sort of toned to link in with that floor. There's use of the beautiful Turco Argento limestone, which brings that detail to an otherwise pretty restrained palette.
All those are the kind of details that are very subtle, but those kind of things I think are one of the favourite parts of this house that I certainly like.
All of these spaces are sort of founded on the same principles of simplicity and quality of detail. A simplified, reduced palette really allows for the more subtle features of a design to come to life. So the way that light moves across a space through the day and appreciating the quality of that is enabled by a simplification of the framework that it's hitting. You definitely get an overriding sense of calm.
Probably one of my favourite things about the house is it works really hard from a planning and footprint point of view. How you experience and how you flow through a house is really important. But you don't overbuild something, but you also don't underbuild it.
It started with a pretty simple objective of creating something that was equal to the value of what already existed here within the heritage fabric. A relatively small footprint, but within that space it really embodies what we believe in as designers and hopefully holds the values of our clients within it.
Published 3 times a year, the local project hard copy publication contains over 350 pages of curated insight into the latest architecture and design across Australia and New Zealand. Printed on exceptionally high-quality paper stock, the publication is designed to be read and enjoyed over time. A beautiful and valuable addition to any personal library or coffee table. With worldwide delivery available, have the hard copy print publication delivered straight to your door 3 times a year with an annual subscription. Head to the description of this video to subscribe to the triannual print publication.